Okay, guys, so I decided to go live about 2 minutes early to give people the opportunity to get in. And yeah, if you guys can please confirm that you can hear me okay, that'd be great. Let's see, one person online so far. So Ken, can you let me know if you hear me okay? Okay, great. Good. Yeah, guys, so we've got about 2 more minutes and then I'll start. So I'll just give people a chance to jump in, right? So yeah, I guess you guys have 2 more minutes to get a cup of coffee or tea or water or whatever you're drinking, and then we'll jump in, right? So yeah, what do you think of the topic? How to stay motivated? Is that something that you guys like? Okay, cool. We got some people coming in. Nice. 23, 24. Awesome. Okay, 1 more minute, guys. It's too bad I can't see all of you. That'd be kind of cool, right? Does anybody know if there's a way to do that where you can have something like a live stream where everybody can see everybody? Hey, Fixter. Hey, buddy. So Jim Newton just joined. He's my buddy, the Fixter. Okay, guys, well, it's time. So I'm just going to jump in and get started, right? So Jim, is it Jim, James, Fixter? What do you prefer? Okay, anyway. Alrighty, so let's get started, guys. Okay, so the topic of how to stay motivated as a 3D artist. Well, the reason why I decided to do this topic, basically two reasons. One is I just got back from Animago in Munich, where I had the opportunity to talk to a bunch of students, college students, and young professionals. And there was one person specifically in the room that was having a very, very hard time. And what he was basically saying is, well, I got my bachelor's, I completed my college, I did all the right things, my work's great, and so on and so forth. And nobody wants to hire me. And, what am I going to do? And so forth and so on. So basically, pretty negative, right? Pretty negative. And then I addressed that question during the session. And then afterwards, I talked to him some more. And basically, he was in that state of, now what, right? And then also in our Hangout group on Facebook, and if you guys are not a member of that, I suggest you join that because it's fun. We've got about 3,000 people in there. What happened there is somebody who was actually an established 3D artist just posts a comment saying, I quit. Basically, I'm going to walk away from my training, walk away from all the hours and days and weeks and years that I spent on it because it's not happening for me. I'm just going to walk away and leave it alone, right? So these two reasons, were for me the reason to do this live stream, okay? So I wrote down a couple of things that I want to address, and feel free to ask questions. I'll try and address the questions while I'm doing that, okay? Yeah, and let's get started. Now, let me start with a hard one first. And I'm just going to give you guys some hard love, if you know what I mean. It doesn't help anybody to, just say whatever you want to hear. If you want to make it in the industry, you have to get real, right? Okay, so first of all, don't be entitled. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the person that I talked to basically said, well, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, right? So I got everything done that I need to do. So now I'm just going to sit back and wait for somebody to hire me, right? Because I did my thing, now it's your turn. Well, it doesn't work like that, right? Just because you completed college or just because you know how to work in Maya or ZBrush or whatever, right? it's not time to sit back, relax, and wait for somebody to show up with a big bag of money, right? You have to keep on going, and you have to find ways to keep yourself motivated, right? Now, so I talked to the person in question and basically told him that, and he kept on being negative, right? And I told him, well, first of all, there are only really two options, right? And that is to continue or to quit. The thing is, though, you can't make it alone in the industry. You have to have people around you that will help you, that will support you, and so forth. If you are that negative, and I think everybody here in this live stream knows what I mean by that, that one person that's always negative, right? That person is a person you want to avoid. Everybody works hard in this industry, whether you are a student, whether you are a freelance artist, you work very hard, you're always learning, you're always, busting your butt to get that done. And if somebody around you is completely, negative and complaining, and I'm not going to get hired, and what I'm going to do, and so forth, people will just walk away from that. So don't be negative and don't be entitled, right? Okay, so how do you deal with that? Well, first of all, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, is have a plan. Now, that sounds simple, right? Okay, have a plan. What is your plan? Well, people will say, I want to work for Pixar. Well, that's a plan that is probably not very realistic, but nevertheless, it's a plan. The reason why you need to have a plan is because that is the structure that you're going to build on, right? So whenever you feel lost and you don't know what to do and you don't know what to do next, you can fall back on your plan. Now, the plan could be, for example, a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, or a 5-year plan. So you could say within 1 year, I want to be able to have enough knowledge to do a full workflow in, let's say, Maya, ZBrush, and Substance Painter. That could be a plan, right? Or you can say within 1 year, I want to produce my first completely self-made short animation film. That can be a plan. Now, the plan itself is more like writing down an idea, but how does it help you to stay motivated? Well, once you have the plan, you can then go in and create a schedule, right? Okay, so my plan is to make my first animated movie, short film, right, after 1 year. So now I'm going to create a schedule. I'm going to break it down into 12 months. So what do I need to do? What do I need to complete after each month, right? And what does that mean per week? What does that mean per day? You can even go as far as to filling in the daily schedule if you want, right? Now, if you have a plan like this, that means that whenever you are kind of lost or, depressed or negative or not motivated or whatever, you have something to fall back on that will basically be your guide so you know where to go, okay? All right. Okay, so once you have that schedule, make small targets. So when people say, hey, I want to work for Pixar, great. Probably never going to happen, right? Could be. I don't want to be negative, but chances are, okay? So what you need to do is you need to make small targets because you need to have the feeling that you're accomplishing something, right? So let's take that example again of the short animation. Let's say one of your targets is within 2 weeks, I want to have the initial draft of my script ready, right? Okay, that's a small target. You work towards that in 2 weeks. You make that and you are feeling happy about yourself and you're going to celebrate and party time, right? Cool. Then you take another one, another one, another one. So you take your plan, you take your schedule, and you put targets in there so you have something to live towards every day, every week, every month, every year. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see. Any questions so far? I want to do some questions in between before I go to the next sections, right? So any questions about this, about having a plan, having a schedule, having targets, right? Take a minute and you guys. Okay. Okay, let's see. Any questions? Okay, so the question if mental rate will work in my 2019. Well, first of all, it's off topic, and second, no, it will not. Let's see. Edison saying, thank you for helping. Yeah, sure, of course. I thought it was normal to have a plan. Well, the thing is, people typically have a plan. So I hope I pronounced your name right. So Lunmir is saying, I thought it was normal to have a plan, actually. Well, everybody thinks they have a plan, right? Oh, I want to work at Pixar. I got a plan. Yay, right? That's not a plan. That's like a brain fart or something, right? A plan is something that, and I need to get a little bit technical here. A plan is something that needs to be smart. And with smart, I don't mean clever. I mean SMART, right? So the S stands for sustainable, right? It needs to be a sustainable thing. The M stands for measurable, right? Let's see. I didn't do this for a while. Hang on one sec. I'll just look it up so I don't mess that up, right? Give me one sec, guys. It's been a while. Let me see if I can find that thing. Okay, all right, got it. So what we got here, let me just throw that on the other screen. And this is something you could actually write down for yourself. Okay, so SMART. So the S is for specific, right? So if you develop a plan, you need it to be very specific. So I don't want to work for Pixar, but I want to work for Pixar as a 3D artist with a specialization in FX, or be as specific as possible. Because otherwise, it's kind of wishy-washy and you don't really know what you're working towards, right? Second one is measurable. So how do you measure whether you achieved your goal or not? Now, you got the plan, you got the schedule, you got the targets. You bring the targets down to small targets, okay? For example, completing that script. Well, if you do this SMART method on that script thing, right, you're going to say, okay, so is it specific? Yes, script, that's what I want. Very specific, okay? Is it measurable? Well, I can measure whether it's done or not, because when it's done, okay? Next one, is it attainable? If you say, okay, I want to walk around on the moon, right? Not realistic, not attainable, okay? Then the next thing is it relevant? I mean, you can plan something and target something and schedule something that is completely irrelevant, and it wouldn't help you to get closer to what you want to do, right? So that wouldn't work. And then finally, time-based. If you have a plan and you don't have a deadline for it, it's not really a plan, is it? If you're going to say, I want to be a 3D animator someday, that's not a plan, all right? So let me just repeat that for you guys. So it has to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based, okay? So if you take all of that stuff, you put that on your plan, on your schedule, and on your targets, you always have something to work towards in a very specific way, okay? All right, so let me go back a little bit, see what we got here on comments or questions or whatnot. Let's see. Okay. Mental way. Okay, we got a couple of questions that are not really relevant. Okay, so how to feel motivated if nothing works out? Join live stream. So if you answer, okay, it's okay. So Alex.gamer, how do you stay motivated when nothing works out? Well, I kind of went into that just now when I talked about, let me address the word nothing. You're saying nothing works out. What does nothing mean? Like, you haven't eaten, you haven't drank, you don't have any clothes, you don't have a roof over your head, nobody talks to you, you're not breathing, what? That's the thing, what I mean with being negative. There's always something that works out, right? It's maybe not what you expect. And that's the whole idea of having a plan and having a target and so forth. If I have a plan to become an animator and it's the only thing I want and nothing else, chances are I'm going to be disappointed, right? So what you do is you break your plans down into smaller plans, like I said, right? Not a year goal, not a month goal, but a goal for this week or a goal for today. A goal for today can be, I want to learn something new in 3D, right? That's not too hard to obtain. And once you've done that, you could say, hey, I achieved something, right? So you need to have realistic goals. So let me tell you this. What do you mean by nothing works out, right? And if you can tell me, I can address that. Okay, in the meantime, Danny is saying, I'm from India, currently doing diploma in 3D modeling. Do I need to do a proper degree in game design, or is this enough? Well, that depends on what you want. I did a live stream a while back where I talked about the differences between self-taught versus college degree. At the end of the day, it's all about the skills, right? Whether you can get the skills by yourself, by looking at tutorials, reading books, talking to people, or whether you need a degree for that, that is very individual and very personal and up to you. In my personal experience, people don't require a certain training if you can do the work, right? Hopefully that answers that question. Okay, so Brad is saying how to schedule and execute stuff, right? Okay, let's take that example. Let's say you want to make a movie, right? Now, you know what the end result is. That's a movie, right? So you work backwards. So if you want to have a movie in a year, you write down everything that needs to be done to create that movie. Okay, so you need a storyboard, you need a script, you need concept work, you need modeling, you need rigging, you need animation, you need all of that. So you put these all on a piece of paper and you throw them on the table, right? So you got like 100 things you need to do. Then what you do is you put them in the right order. So you don't rig something, unless it's already modeled, right? So you put them in a logical order. So you got all of these papers in a long line, and these are all the things you need to do. And then you put time on it. How long does it take to make a script? 2 weeks. How much time does it take to model? 1 week, whatever. You got all these times, and then back to back, this will tell you how long the whole thing will take. And once you got all of that, what you're going to do is you're going to assign it. So you're going to say, okay, in week 1, I'm going to do this and this. In week 2, I'm going to do this. In week 3, I'm going to do this. And sometimes the plan doesn't work out because you thought you're going to do it in 2 weeks and it's taking longer. Hey, that's okay. Maybe something else will be shorter. That's kind of how you plan that out, right? Let's see, what else? I'm way behind on the comments here, but I'm just going to go back a little bit. Woo. So, Kunal, you are repeating whatever you're saying like over and over. Please don't do that, because if you keep on doing that, I'm going to have to block you, right? So please don't. So I see your question. You're saying I face the same issues. I have knowledge of my ZBrush Substance Painter, and whenever I got a new test from any company, the first thought I get, I will not be able to complete this, right? Okay, so answer this question. Why do you have that thought? Why do you think you won't be able to complete that? Because you don't have the knowledge, or because you think it's scary to do a test like that? Big difference, right? And that is something that is important too. And I talked about this on Imago, actually. A lot of people think, okay, if I know the technical stuff, I know how to work in Maya and ZBrush and Substance Painter, I'm ready to go. Well, you're not. Because if you want to sell whatever you're doing as freelance or even as a studio artist, you need to be convincing, which means you need to understand how to sell that. So sales techniques, you need to understand business. How does making money work? How does revenue work? You need to have business skills. So it's a lot more than just being able to model, right? Okay, so Kunal is saying, I'm not confident enough. All right, so how do you get confident? Well, if they ask me to do a presentation on, I don't know, Greek mythology, I'd probably be pretty nervous because I don't know anything about that, right? Well, not a lot anyway. If they would say, how about you talk about 3D? I would probably be more confident because I spend a lot more time on it and I know a lot more about it. So usually you're not confident about something because you don't have the appropriate knowledge just yet. Now, 2 ways to address that. One is you can adjust your expectations. If you have been working in 3D for, let's say, 6 months, and you're in a forum and you want to post your work, you're kind of afraid to do that because of what people will say or whatnot. Keep in mind, you've been at it for 6 months, not 16 or 20 years, right? And if your expectations are, appropriate and make sense, then it's a different thing. Nobody will expect you to have professional work, right? If you're only at it for 6 months, and you shouldn't do that either. In our Facebook group, we have people that are just starting out. They won't post anything because they're afraid that their work isn't good enough. Good enough compared to what, and good enough according to who, right? Pretty important. Okay, let's see. Hey, Martin joined in. Hey, buddy. Let's see what else. Okay, any recommendation where I can learn how to model texture realistic person in my info in YouTube? Okay, so Sam is saying there's very limited info in YouTube. I do not agree. I think there's a lot out there. I mean, there are many people that make tutorials on YouTube. I think there are a lot of them that are really good as well. Depending on what kind of software you're using, there are good channels for 3ds Max. There are good channels for ZBrush. There are good channels for Substance Painter. Basically, everything you need to know you can find on YouTube. Trust me. Okay, so Bharat is saying, I want some advice here. Okay, what kind of advice do you want? And why are you sticking up your middle finger? Okay, what do you kind of fall? What do we call the field in VFX that includes 3D stuff? I don't know what you mean. I mean, the VFX stuff typically is 3D, unless it's practical effects, okay? Is it good to have industry experience to start your own studio? Gaming Tiger TV. Well, it's kind of off topic here, but of course, any experience will help you to start your own studio. Let's see, being limited for you. Let's see if you can stay on topic a little bit, guys. Okay, so let's see. Peter PD1 asked a question. Where is it? As a student, what would we aim for in a show reel? I know we shouldn't really compare ourselves with industry standard people with years of experience, but what should we initially aim for? Okay, well, not really on the motivational topic, but I'll address it anyway. So if you're making a show reel and you're new to the industry, then chances are you want to be hired as a junior generalist, right? You're not going to be hired as a specialist because you're not, right? Makes sense. So first of all, what you do is you post your best work, and it's important for a studio owner to see how you break down your work. So not just the end result, but show the wireframe, show the UV, show the map baking, show the low poly, the high poly, and finally show the end result, right? Because you're aiming for a generalist position, try to be as broad as possible. So show some particle work, show some rigging work, some animation work, some texturing work, and basically anything that you can do to show that you have knowledge in multiple areas, and as a result, can be hired to do multiple things. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. So Peter PD1, please let me know if that answers your question. Let's see. Aspiring animator, but at times when I'm working on a scene, I find myself either grow bored of my idea or lose my motivation in the process. Okay. Well, excellent question. So Cheyenne, I hope I pronounced that right. Let me address that for a sec, right? Okay, so you're working on something that's taking forever and you kind of get bored with it, right? Now, a couple of things you can do. First of all, it's very, very important to have what I like to call playtime, which is basically switch gears, do something for yourself, do something completely new, learn something new, forget about the project for a second, right? But if you have a deadline and you have to keep on working on it, I got this tip for you. 3D artists tend to work alone a lot, right? They're sitting in their room behind their computer, working, days and days and hours and weeks and whatever, right? And so at some point you just get stuck. Now, I got this idea from a person that does something completely different. He sketches in a little book, right? But he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my local coffee shop or Starbucks or whatever, right? I'm just going to sit there with my sketchbook and draw, right? And he talked about this online, and like a week later, there were 3 people doing the same thing. Hey, Don. And, then suddenly there were 5 and there were 10 and there were 15. So the idea that I got here is what's always very motivational is to surround yourself with other 3D people. You learn from them, you hear what they're doing, you get excited about what they're doing, and so forth. So get online, get into a forum group or whatever way you network with people, right? And basically tell them, hey, I'm going to be at my local coffee shop Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock, and I'm just going to be sitting there drinking coffee and talk about 3D stuff with whoever is interested, right? So 2 people may show up, 5, 10, I don't know. At some point in time, you basically have a hangout group of people that you can relate to, talk to, and just stay motivated, because they're going to be asking about your project, you're going to be asking about their project, they can give you ideas and so forth and so on, right? So I saw people do this. It works like a charm. It's a lot of fun. So try that, right? Let's see. Okay, after making a plan, how do you stay on the plan and stop yourself from procrastinating? Okay. Okay, well, that's kind of a personal thing. If you are working on something and you find reasons why you want to distract yourself, you could argue, well, was it a good plan to start with? So apparently you're working on something that you're not really thrilled about. If it's a money thing because you're working for a client, that's just the way it is. Do your job, get paid, there you go. If it's something you're doing for fun, then probably you need to reconsider whether that is what you should do. If it's just a thing that happens on occasion and you have a hard time staying motivated, like I said in the beginning of the live stream, what you do is make sure you get a plan, have a schedule, have targets. So you work on something for like an hour or maybe 2, and then you stop and do something else, right? So if you cannot stay focused on something for 2 hours, then you probably have a different problem, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Hey, Nestor. Okay, Harold, hi, Mike. I find I get really motivated and inspired on a particular topic, but when I have a hard bit, I tend to struggle. Find the answer, then the motivation drops, which is a good way to stay on. Okay, well, again, if you're part of a community, then you can talk to people to stay motivated. I mean, it's like everything else in life. If you have friends or people that you can relate to, whether it's in real life or online, and you are frustrated or negative or bored or anything like that, talk to your friends and maybe they will be able to cheer you up or give you an idea or whatever to get out of that, right? Now, one of the reasons why I set up my group is specifically for that, okay? So right now, there are like 3,000 something artists in the group, and I think it's a really positive environment. They help each other to stay motivated, and it's cool, right? Okay, so let's see. Zoe, any tips on how to get an internship? What's the best time to send out portfolios? Okay, so I know somebody who is looking for interns. So what you're going to do is you're going to send an email to me. That's my email address, right? And I'll tell you how to get in touch with them, right? Okay, let's see. Don saying that feedback tends to be quite negative. Okay, I have participated in Discord channels, but the constant. Okay, interesting. So Don is basically saying, if I paraphrases correctly, if you share online, people are going to dump all over you, right? Well, that's kind of one of the reasons why I set up the group in the first place, right? I got so fed up with all the negativity that we have a group, and there are a couple of members of my group right here. So Nestor Rios is part of my group. I think Don is. I know Fixer is for sure, and some others. You guys know that my hangout group is very, very respectful. We don't do that. We don't crap all over people. We don't, do the hateful thing. I know it's online, but it's a protected, closed community. It's invite only, right? And yeah, there you go. So, and if you're not part of that, hang on. And once again, I'll just give you guys a link. Where'd he go? Where are you guys at? Yeah, here we go. All right, so here's a link to my Hangout group if you're not already a member. And like I said, about 3,000 people in there, all very respectful, fun to hang out with, and you can learn a lot from these guys, okay? Let's see. I struggle to choose a department in which I should specialize, attracted to each and everything. Is there an easy way to crack it? Yes, become a generalist, right? You don't have to become a specialist until you know what you want to be, right? So start off by being a generalist. Know a little bit about everything. Get hired by a studio or freelance, and as time goes by, you'll find out what your real thing is, your passion is, and then you can still decide to do that, right? Okay, so Mike Sugar is saying, asked a question earlier, but I think I got lost in your chat. Anyway, you can help me out. Mike, can you please repost it? Okay, let's see, what else? King is asking, do I have Discord? I do not. Fixter is saying, learn to accept constructive criticism and reject destructive. Yeah, that's true. Hey, Chris, my man. Chris is on here. Hey, buddy. Yeah, Christian Koch-Rumpf is one of the best artists I've ever seen, and he's a hell of a guy, and I love him to death, and he's my buddy, right? Okay, so welcome, guy. Let's see. Can I make a video on modeling detail? That's off topic. Let's see, what else? Any Houdini and procedural in general, the future of modeling. Whether procedural modeling is the future of modeling, is that your question, Bogdan? How to come work in a company who does not pay overtime, abuse your creativity, as that what is discouraging me as a graduate trying to job here. Okay, so Kevin, simple question. I'll not say what it is, I'll show you, right? You go up to your boss and you do this, right? I mean, you got companies like that where they are, you guys lost me? You guys still hear me? Is the stream gone? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. All right, so what I was talking about. Yeah, okay, so if they abuse your creativity, they don't pay your overtime, basically it's just abuse, right? Now, I know everybody has to pay their dues and, do the shitty work at low pay and whatnot, but there's a difference between doing that and being completely abused, right? If you think there's no future there for you, get out of there as soon as possible, right? I mean, the only thing you're doing is you're absorbing a whole bunch of negativity that will influence you probably for the rest of your career. So get out of their way when you can, right? Let's see. Venkat is saying, I'm a comper and a DP artist, but for personal filmmaking, I want to create near photorealism 3D scenes, and I don't know which software I have to start with. My suggestion, sorry for repeating. Okay, well, again, not really about the motivation thing here, but if you're looking for photorealism, depending on what type, if you're looking at, organic modeling, definitely ZBrush. If you're looking at hard surface modeling, that could be 3ds Max. If it's, for example, interiors or art phys, right? Doing 3D demo, you should not. Okay, so Max is saying, is it true that for your portfolios, you should not concept your own artwork? Why the hell not? I mean, if you have the skills to do your own concept work, of course you would do that. I would. Let's see, which department seems to have more job opportunities? What about VFX? That's an interesting question. That, of course, depends on the geography, where you live, what type of company you're applying for. So there's not really one answer to that. Usually, there's more opportunity for generalists, but they're typically lower paid. If you are a good specialist, you can make better money, and it's highly sought after if you have the right specialism. Okay. Interesting. So obsessing over detail. Yeah, I see that a lot. And that's where people that are recent graduates get in trouble, right? So they're in college, they are working however long they're working on something, and they're obsessing over detail because they want to go on and on and on, right? And then they suddenly start to work for a client or a studio, and they got a deadline, and they say, hey, it has to be done by next week. You have to force yourself to say good is good, right? It doesn't always have to be perfect. And I see Christian there saying, guilty of that. I assume that's what he's talking about. I know him to be a perfectionist, but it's never going to be done, in your opinion. There's always going to be something you want to change, right? And you simply cannot do that if you're working for a client or a studio. Let's see, got some rigging questions, got some modeling questions, tutorial questions. Let's not do that in this call. Let's see. Ryan is saying, I get inspired by Autodesk showreels and want to do only visual effects stuff. Can you tell me areas to focus on in Maya? Well, if you are really into visual effects stuff, to be honest, I would advise you to get into Houdini and not Maya. Okay, let's see what else. I'm actually, just a little minute ago, Mike asked a question and said that it probably got lost in the chat, and I asked him to repeat it, but I didn't see it, right? Okay, let's see. Yeah, for those of you who you did, let me just scrub back, Mike, because I don't think I addressed it. Sorry about that, man. Oh, there's so many. Let's go back. I'm not seeing it. Oh, here. I feel like I lost my passion. Didn't feel the same way when I sit down to create and advise on getting a passion. Okay, so Mike, basically what you're saying is how to get your passion back once you've lost it. Is that what you're saying? Okay, well, interesting. I think all of us at one point or another had a situation that you just wanted to forget about everything, right? Just get rid of it, never touch 3D again. You're so frustrated, you're so mad, nothing is working out, and it's just basically shit, right? Okay, so how do you get back from that? Well, first of all, if you have a sense that you have to get back from that, you're stressing yourself out. You don't have to do anything, right? If your final decision is that it's not for you and you're walking away, I mean, hey, that's okay, right? But what you need to do, though, is you need to think about, why did you get into it in the first place, right? Why did you get excited about 3D? When does this happen? When you were a kid, when you were an adult, what were you doing? Were you playing games? Were you looking at a movie? Were you looking at a specific movie? There's something about this that attracts you, right? And what usually happens is you get caught up in all the other stuff, money, contracts, education, and all that stuff, and you kind of forget why you got into this. So what I do in a situation like that is I basically drop everything, and I will do exactly that, what got me motivated in the first place. So for example, the reason why I got into 3D and when I got into 3D was in 1995 when they released Toy Story 1, right? Now, I knew about John Lasseter, I knew about George Lucas, I knew about the whole story behind this, how Steve Jobs got involved in Pixar and all that, right? Now, I wanted to do computer animation even, like in the early 80s, like 82 or 83, and it didn't exist. So when that suddenly was possible, I was so excited, I wanted to do that, right? Now, all of the other stuff, working for studios, working freelance, making money, all of that doesn't matter, right? If you lose your passion, go back to what got you inspired in the first place. So what I will do is I'll pop in a DVD about, the history of Pixar, or I'll look at Toy Story 1 or anything like that, or I'll simply hang out with other 3D artists that are working on personal projects just because it makes fun, because it's fun, right? And then you just forget about all the other stuff, and then you know what you love about it. If you then still don't love it because you hate it, right? Drop it. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, I don't care. Don't read about it. Don't watch any tutorials, don't touch Maya, don't touch ZBrush, nothing at all, right? If after 1 month you don't miss it at all, then maybe it's a good thing for you to walk away from it, right? In my case, if I say I don't want to do anything like this anymore, like 4 hours later, I'm behind my PC creating something, because 3D is not something you want to do. It's kind of something that you have to do, right? So Mike, let me know if this helps you in any way. Okay, Sam's going to bed. Good night, buddy. Let's see. Okay, so the Gaming Wolf 87 asking about good animation schools. I have a thing on my website, and I'll just type it in. On my website, there's a category called Worldwide 3D Universities. So these are universities that I'm collecting based on input I get from people from all over the world. Here you can see an overview of every university I have added so far, right? And there are already more than 100, okay? So you can check that out. Let's see. All right, so Lovebird, I looked at the entry requirements for 3D artists in gaming, and they seem to want pro quality from you while paying low wages and offering unstable work. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Can you name me one industry where that is not the case? I mean, if you are young and unexperienced, right, and you want to get in any job, I don't care what it is, right? Basically, people will say, hey, it's time for you to pay your dues, right? We've been here longer. We know more than you do. We have more experience than you do. So you get the shitty job and you get the shitty pay. That's just the world it is, right? And it's up to you to become better and to progress to the next level where you are not at the level anymore and the next guy that comes in is, right? Now, it doesn't mean that you should, work for, crap money, but you have to expect that when you get started in the industry, it's not going to be great. The first year, maybe year and a half, it's going to be tough. Keep that in mind, okay? And if it's really like the company that I talked about before, maybe that's not the company to work for. Yeah, so Karen is saying the best moment is when you're trying to solve some stupid problem. I have no idea how to do that. And then like hours later, like it's suddenly fixed. Or you're hurting your brain trying to find a solution. You just walk away from it and go watch a movie or something. And while you're watching the movie, suddenly, hey. Yeah, so the fixer, Jim Newton saying you have to prove yourself. Exactly. The thing is this, I'll tell you a true story, right? So back in the day, I was a manager. I had an interview, right? And a guy came straight out of college and says, okay, this is the amount of money I want to make and whatnot, right? And I told him, I said, based on what? He says, what do you mean? I said, well, you just came out of college. College prepares you for a job. You never actually did the job at all, ever, not one single day, right? So how do I know if you have any value at all? And that ties into what I was saying before, right? I mean, and the first thing I said in this live stream is, don't be entitled. If you have your college degree or you have the knowledge, right? You think, okay, so I'm ready to get the big bucks and I'm entitled to it, so give me my money, right? The guy or the woman you're talking to is going to say, well, it's great that you think you're valuable, but for me, you're not until you prove you are. So that's exactly what Victor is saying, okay? Okay, what else, guys? Okay. So not okay, so Michael saying, I'm 32, working on a 3D portfolio. I find myself not as motivated since I feel like at my age, there's not a lot of room to improve and grow. I cannot stop wanting. I mean, Michael, you're 32. I mean, compared to me, you're a teenager, right? I see this all the time. People will say, oh, I'm way too old. I can't do this and whatnot. We have people in our Facebook group that are 71, right? They started in 3D when I think they were 60 something, right? If you can do the job, you can do the job. And it's not about the recognition, right? People will say, okay, I only will be happy once I get hired, or I get this, or I get that. Do it because you want to do it. The reward is you being able to, work in 3D and have fun doing that, right? And of course you want to make money, but if you want somebody to pat you on the back and say, you're the greatest invention since electricity or whatever, that's not why you should do this. You should do this for yourself. Okay. Let's see. Harold is saying, watching animated cartoons seems to motivate me. Knowing a little bit about modeling, you have no choice but to be wowed by the production. Exactly. I mean, for example, and I'm going to say something that you guys are going to be really mad about, but I'm not a huge fan of Marvel movies, right? I'll look at a Marvel movie and I'm like, come on, guys, right? I mean, the effects are way overboard and all that, but fair enough. It's based on a comic, right? But I'll watch them anyway, and I'll watch them because it's so amazing what the 3D people do on these productions. And that inspires me. I mean, I talked to a guy at Animago in Munich, right? And he later commented to me when he was back, he said, Animago gave me an injection. And I didn't really know what he meant, right? I thought maybe, he was on drugs or whatever. And he says, no, I got a motivational injection. I saw all these talented people. I saw all these ambitious people. I saw all these cool projects. And when I got back home, I was thrilled to get on board and do new stuff, right? So yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's see. Tatiana is saying 44 just started to learn 3D. Well, good for you, Tatiana. And you have a whole life ahead of you of being an awesome 3D artist. So keep on going, right? And please join the forum. I just posted the link. Join my forum. We got people there. I think the youngest one is 14 or 15. The oldest is 74 or something like that. And we got everything in between. And we got people in games, in movies. We got producers. We got animators. We got riggers. We got all that, right? Well, thanks. How am I going to pronounce your name? Raijin? Raijin? From Russia. Oh, cool. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I'm a fresher and I'm not getting a job right now in India because I'm a fresher. So I start working as freelancer. It'll be good, or should I wait for a job? Okay. Okay, whether you should wait for a job or not, that is, of course, a personal decision. As long as you don't lose track of your initial goal. The thing is, people kind of decide, okay, I'll do this for a while the other thing isn't happening yet. And then suddenly they wake up and they've been doing it for 10 years. So be careful with that, right? Do what you got to do, but keep track of your goal and make sure you don't lose track of that, okay? Let's see. Okay, what else we got? Questions. We got some systems questions, which is a bit off topic here. Just start modeling for ARC. There's a very polite community over there. I'm not making a huge amount of money right now, but that's fine because I do this stuff for life the most. Well, that's a very good attitude. So Ronald Gertz, very good attitude. Of course, it's a big difference if you are, let's say, 20 years old, living in your mom's basement and not paying any rent, or if you're a 32-year-old, married and have 4 kids, because, there's a necessity of making money and paying the bills, right? But if you can do that, absolutely. So Elliot, what do you mean by group modeling? And while you say that, Soraya is saying Max or Maya. Okay. For me personally, I would say 3ds Max for interiors and exteriors, as in ArtViz, and for everything else, Maya, unless it's organic and then ZBrush, right? Setting goals that get me seem like a good idea tomorrow, but tomorrow I might look at my paper and think. Trying to understand what you're saying here, Harold. It's the whole setting goals that get me seems like a good idea tomorrow, but tomorrow I might look at my paper and think, what was it? Oh, okay. Yeah. if that's the feeling you get when you do that, then it seems like there's somebody or something putting pressure on you that you're not aware of, because apparently you're putting things to paper that are not realistic, and therefore you get frustrated with them and you just chuck it out and just say forget about it, right? So the idea is to do things and write things down that are achievable, right? And it's not these huge unrealistic goals. It's just, basic stuff like what I said in the beginning. If you want to do a short animated movie in the time period of a year and you need a script, you put down to paper, my goal and my target and my schedule is I'm going to complete the script in the next 2 weeks, right? Now, it's not too long, so it's short enough so you don't get totally bored. It's a good measurable step. It's a success point where you're going to go out and celebrate and have a burger and a beer, whatever, right? And then you move on to the next one. If you take that piece of paper, look at it like, what was I thinking? Apparently, you put down some stuff that doesn't fit at all, right? Hope that helps. Okay, so Elliot's saying modeling the scene in Maya along with 3 other people. Okay. That's what you mean by group modeling. All right. Let's see. Let's see what the original question was. Yeah, kind of lost you there, guys. Sorry. Okay, which texture software suggests to production modeling? Texture software. Well, most things nowadays are PBR texturing, so Substance Painter is a good choice. I also work with Keyshot. I think that's great. Let's see, Kristen. Hey, Lucifer. Okay, guys. Well, I want to go another 8 minutes. So any questions on the topic at hand? So topics about planning, scheduling, staying motivated, having fun, and so forth and so on. Okay. And there's actually a very cliche thing that helps quite well, actually. If you have this goal in your head, for example, that you want to work for Pixar, just to take an obvious one, put the logo of Pixar on the wall and look at it all day long, right? I mean, if that doesn't motivate, I don't know what it does. Well, that's the attitude. 3D is the best thing that ever happened to me. That's really cool. How do I know how much time I should spend on a model? Well, that kind of depends on what the end stage of the model is. I mean, if you are working for a client or a studio, they will tell you how long, right? Because they got a deadline, they're making money. If it's a personal project, you can work on it for years. I mean, that's up to you, right? So P. Gavro is saying that I'm responsible for most of his 3D. So hopefully that's a good thing. Reasonable goal. Would an indie game be a reasonable goal for a beginner? Why not? I mean, you need to break it down based on your skill set, right? I mean, I assume you know something, right? And try to set a time frame that kind of fits your skill set and your knowledge. And if that's in line with each other, it's okay. So Insta Music is saying, I'll send you an email. Can you read it later? Yeah, of course. No problem. How do you stay? Okay, so hi, Mike. How do you stay motivated in a team when your best ideas are not considered in the project? How to stay motivated to give it your best? Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Is this a group that you are willingly a part of, or is it a group that has been put together externally? So like a group at school, at college, at a studio or whatnot, right? And I'm asking that because it kind of says a lot about the group dynamic. I mean, I don't know whether your ideas are good or not. I do know, though, that typically it's human behavior that if you put a group of people together, some people are more dominant and they are more in your face, if you will, and some people are not. There should be somebody that kind of monitors that and makes sure that everybody gets heard, but in real life, that's not always the thing, right? Okay, so you're saying, yeah, at school. So at school, people have their individual reasons why they want to be, in charge, because they want to maybe press their thing through, want to be noticed, and so forth and so on. Regardless of what happens, and regardless whether they take your ideas or not, I would take the opportunity to learn as much as possible. For example, learn what type of person you don't want to be, learn what topics get chosen and why, and so forth, right? Let's see here, which one? Okay, what render is used for Hollywood film? Well, there's so many, and it depends so much on what type of film. Animated film, regular film, is it for effects, and so forth and so on, right? Now, suddenly the chat's exploding here. Okay, how do I understand if I'm good enough to get a 3D job? Well, try to get a 3D job and you'll find out. Let's see. Program languages, is there any way or... Okay, so I don't know what just happened there, but did Adil just donate something? That's awesome. Cool, thank you. Okay, interesting. So I'm so sorry, I'm butchering your name. I'm disabled. Is there any way or sites that I can work with company remotely? First of all, whether you're disabled or not, there are always ways to work remotely. And if you are disabled, and I have a thing with disability because my wife has a disability, and I have people in my group with the disability. So you definitely need to become part of my Facebook group and, chat with me personally at some point, and I'll help you to answer your question. Okay. Let's see. Hey, people from Turkey. I've been to Turkey. It was awesome. How is the feature for 3D? Keep up. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Let's see. Let's see. Will is saying, have I used Redshift? Oh, Will Hughes. Wow, man. That's a long time since I saw you pop up. I am such a fan of your work. You're the guy that did Yoda, right? Let's see. One of the best artists. Dave Bowman. Yeah, Will, oh man, I just posted a video actually with one of your pieces in it. Will Hughes, he is such an incredible artist, man. Unbelievable. So yeah, welcome back. Yeah, so Jim's saying Jim Newton, I mean, we call him Fixter, but you guys know who I'm talking about. He is disabled himself, and that's one of the main reasons why he got started in 3D. So yeah, there's no reason whatsoever not to be in 3D because you have a disability, right? Okay, Harold, thanks, buddy. Let's see, what else? Okay, so is it possible without education to get into any famous studio by a lot of work and in consequence of fame? Okay, well, first of all, if you mean without education, without formal college education, because no education means no knowledge means no skill. And if you got no knowledge and no skill, you're not going to be hired, right? If you mean that you got your education by, self-learning, that's a different situation. If your rig is good, you definitely have the ability. Okay, so Kyle is saying, I'm learning anatomy for a year now. I get better, but I still feel overwhelmed. I know this is normal, but I think I need some kind of precise roadmap. Okay. Well, and I don't know why you're learning anatomy. I assume it's for modeling or for sculpting, right? If that's the reason, then, and I actually did this a long time ago, but just started to get reacquainted with ZBrush. But I studied anatomy for a different reason a long, long time ago. For me, the thing was that I would, again, make a plan, make a schedule, and set targets. So I would, for example, have to learn all the bones and muscles in the human hand, right? Now, if I thought about the entire human anatomy, I would go nuts and just throw the book out the window and sit in the corner and cry, right? Now, if you can just break it down to something that is, doable, for example, focusing on the hand, what you'll say is, well, the next month I'm going to spend only on the hand and nothing else, right? I guarantee you after a month, you know exactly what's what, how to do it, and so forth. And once you feel comfortable with that, you go to something that is similar. So for example, hand and foot is not that different, right? They got the same, ligament set up, they got the same bone structure and so forth. And then take it from there. Okay, so considering the time, guys, I'm going to do one more question here, and I'm reading the one, let's see here. It says, our teachers say this small line that we have taught you the tool, but how to use it is up to you. Is the correct way of teaching? I'm probably going to upset a lot of teachers right now, and that's not my intention, but that is the biggest horse shit I've ever heard, right? I mean, and I know that we have a bunch of good artists in this group because I saw the names pop up, right? Let me tell you this, 3D is not about the tools. A tool is a tool, right? I mean, whether you're working with 3ds Max or Blender or Maya, or I don't care. It's about understanding 3D space. It's about understanding shape, understanding form, understanding lines. It's about understanding movement. It's about storytelling principles. It's about composition. It's about all of that stuff. And the software, it's just a tool, right? It's like a hammer or a saw. You can learn Maya from the technical standpoint, buttons and what functions and so forth, maybe in 4 months, right? But to become a proper, let's say, animator or whatever, it will take years and years and years and years, right? Now, so many people get so stuck on this simple aspect of, okay, if I know every button that's out there in Maya, I'm a great artist. No, you're not, right? You can be a great artist without knowing anything about Maya. You can go to college and they teach you Maya, and then you show up at the studio and the studio says, okay, we don't use Maya, we use Blender. And by the way, you got 2 days to figure it out. That happens all the time. If you understand the essential aspect of 3D, it doesn't matter what software. So their comment saying, well, we taught you the tool, now it's up to you. They shouldn't be teaching you the tool. They should be teaching you the tool plus the essentials of 3D, right? And a lot of other things. All right. Okay, guys, well, full hour in, time to say goodbye. Thank you guys so much. And for those of you who have not seen my link before, if you're not part of the forum, and let me hang on, I'll just post it one more time. Hang on, where do you guys go? There you are. So here you go, guys. One more time, here's the link. And yeah, this group is very respectful. It's a lot of fun. Everybody in there helps each other out, and people that act as complete, whats, they kind of get invited to leave, right? So you are all awesome. Thank you so much for all of you. 83 people right now. Very awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay, bye. Bye, guys.